On Target Institute presents a teaching from the Men on Target small group curriculum. Now with today's session, On Target founder Vince D'Acchioli.
Well, hello again, men. How you doing? And welcome to session 29 in module 4. You know, I hope you guys are having as much fun watching these sessions as we in the studio are having in taping them. Our producer, I'd call him Snurdly, but that name's already been taken. So we call him Pat McGuire here at Alternate, and I are really enjoying bringing these things to you. So let's dig in. Session 1. Now this is a man and his wife, part 1. If you remember, in the last 4 sessions, we were dealing with some pretty heavy-duty stuff. We talked about the different things that God showed me during a period of time in our life where we almost lost my wife. He showed me 6 very profound things that we shared with you, and we concluded with what we call the secret to life. If you haven't seen those sessions, I highly recommend that you look them up and do so. As always, you can download all of the information you need about these sessions. You can also become a member at OTI by going to our website, otm.co. You can also download the handouts for all these sessions there as well. So, A Man and His Wife, Part 1. We're going to be exploring in Part 1 and Part 2 the differences between men and women. And I want to suggest to you that men and women are different in at least 4 different ways. We're different as the result of our past experiences. We're different because of our physiological makeup. We also differ as a result of the fallen nature that happened back in the garden. Now, we're going to really unpack that one next week, and that really is a very, very important one. In fact, it's one that you can watch later with your spouses if you'd like to, and I think it would be very informative for you. And then the 4th area is our natural gifts, which we already covered, but I'll mention briefly toward the end. Now, when it comes to our past experiences, you may remember in one of our earlier sessions, I had everybody fold their hands. And with our hands folded, I asked you to look at the way you fold your hands. And if you look at the way I fold my hand, you'll notice that the right hand, the first finger of my right hand is on top. Some of us fold our hands that way, and others of us fold our hands with the left hand first finger on top. And just right where you are right now, go ahead and reverse it, and you'll notice that it feels very, very awkward. We talked about how, why is it that we fold our hands that way? And the fact of the matter is, nobody really knows why. It's when we were little boys, and we saw Mom and Dad fold their hands one day, our hands came together. Whatever way our hands came together that first time, we formed what is commonly referred to as a habit. It's nothing more scientific than that. Now, of course, that's a very unconscious habit that we form, but there are a lot of other unconscious habits that can really get in the way of having an effective relationship as the result of past life experiences. Not learning how to overcome what we've talked about in earlier sessions, for instance, dealing with fear, anger, unforgiveness, and guilt. We'll talk about some of those as we move forward. Now, let's talk a little bit more about past experiences. Let me give you an example out of my own life. My dad was a form over substance kind of guy. And whenever he would get into trouble, what would happen is he would buy my mom something. I'll never forget one day I came home and there was a brand new car in the driveway with a big bow on it. And I thought, oh my goodness, what did he do now? You know, but because he was that way, he modeled that for us kids. So when I got married to Cindy, I was kind of a form over substance kind of guy. My dad was the guy that said, hey, listen, I told you I loved you when I married you. If I ever change my mind, I'll let you know. Well, of course, that's not healthy. And when I got married to Cindy, her emotional needs were not being met because I was not a lovey, huggy, kind of an intimate kind of a guy. I was just the kind of a guy that was form over substance. So I had learned to just buy her stuff, and so with Cindy, it was very different. Her dad was an engineer. And in fact, he used to travel with Bob Hope years ago when he would do conferences overseas, and he did all the sound engineering work for Bob. And as a result, he grew up he was a perfectionist, and Cindy had that lived out before her by her own dad, so she became a perfectionist. And I'll never forget one time when we were getting ready to paint our bedroom. I worked for a paint company back then, and I said, hey, Cindy, I can paint the bedroom. So we went out and bought some paint, brought it home, and I started painting the bedroom. And pretty soon she came and inspected. She looked real close and she says, hey, what's that right there? And I said, what's what? She says that they're brush marks. I said, what do you mean brush marks? She says, there are brush marks in there. I said, well, you know what? It's a brush. They're going to be brush marks. She said, no. Good paint jobs don't have brush marks. And I said, we got in this big argument. We ended up not painting the bedroom. We put everything away, put the furniture back in the room, and it was years before we ever painted the bedroom because we got this argument over her perfectionism. So you can see in our relationship how just those two little things as a result of growing up can become very profound and get in the way in our relationship. Some of you are probably thinking of things like that right now, and in a few moments you'll have an opportunity to maybe talk about them in your small group discussion. Now, the second area is our physiological makeup. I don't know if you knew this, but in one drop of blood from a man, there's over 1 million more red blood cells in a drop of a man than there is you ladies. You ladies have this tissue underneath your skin. There's a fatty layer underneath the skin, which causes your skin to be soft and supple. It doesn't exist in us men, so our skin is a little bit more coarse. These are just a few of the things. When little babies are born, there's a testosterone wash that comes over the male brain. We don't know why this happens, but it has the effect of deteriorating the connecting fibers between the left and right hemisphere of a little baby's, male baby's brain. The result of that is we men tend to think with one side of our brain at a time. We men are, or you ladies are, the ladies are more right brain. We men are more left brain. And so we get into trouble sometimes. A man, we can compartmentalize. We can go into a room, experience it, close the door, leave that room, and experience another room totally independent of the room we were just in. And for ladies, it doesn't work that way. Everything kind of flows together like a river. I remember one time I was in San Diego, and I stayed at a friend's house when I was there to speak at a conference. I got home and Cindy says, wow, you got a chance to stay at the friend's house. That was really pretty cool. And I said, yeah. She said, maybe we should send them a card. I said, great, let's send them a card. And she said, well, you know what? Because we saved so much money, maybe let's send them a gift. That's good. I said, let's send them a gift. She says, what are their colors? I did the deer in the headlights for at least 30 seconds. And I told her, I said, honey, I think they're both white. She says, no, that's not what I mean. What color is the carpet? How many of you guys ever look at the color of the carpet? See, our women think differently. I remember one time I was in a mall, in a shopping mall, and my wife went into this card store. It was called CJ Cards. She went in there and she was there for an hour. And I'm sitting outside, playing with my phone and stuff. She comes out later and she's got a bag with about 30 cards in this bag. I said, well, you bought 30 cards? She says, yeah, I bought 30 cards. I said, who are they for? She says, I don't know. Now, can you guys imagine that? I mean, it's just like unbelievable. When does the guy buy the card? He buys the card, at the last minute. So think of it this way. Our ladies have this incredibly thick network of wires and conduits and transistors connecting both sides of their brain, And with us guys, it's kind of like two paper cups and a string. It's kind of like, hello! And we're just not in touch oftentimes with our feelings. And anyway, we compartmentalize, and we also don't understand the difference between emotion and logic. A lot of times we guys want to be very logical, and we don't understand that our wives operate oftentimes on emotion, and that gets us into trouble. Now next week, of course, when we unpack the different fears and needs of men and women that go all the way back to the original curse in the garden, you're going to get much more information about how all of this works. So I really want you to tune in for that one. Now, the next area is our fallen nature, and we'll talk about that next week. And then the fourth one is our natural gifts. Now, if you remember, we've already been through this. When we talked about how and why God made us, we talked about how we are wired uniquely, and we took the natural gift test to discover that. let me say right here, if you've never taken that test, go to otm.co, and under the resources area, you'll find the natural gift test. It takes 15 or 20 minutes. You can take it. If you're married, you can have your spouse take it. If you're dating, you can have that special other person take the gift test, and you will discover how God has wired you in a unique way. And how we're wired, whether we're administratively oriented or whether we're more administratively oriented or whether we're oriented in a more ministry or giving kind of context, it determines how we react to things in our life. It becomes the paradigm through which we make decisions in life. So if you've never taken that test, I encourage you to do so. Now, we also, by the way, in sessions 17 through 19 are the ones, if you want to go back to review this, you can go back and do it in those sessions. Now, life implication. Stress in marriage often results from not understanding, appreciating, and having patience with our differences. Let me repeat that. Stress in a marriage often results from not understanding, appreciating, and having patience with our differences. I can't tell you how many times this has happened with Cindy and me as we look back at our life. Not understanding and appreciating where she's coming from. Pride is really what gets in the way, guys. We are only thinking of ourselves and how we react to things. Okay, and now let's talk about life application. Question number 1. Give an example of how a past experience may have led to stress in your marriage. Now, you've already heard me unpack a couple of those in my story. Think back of maybe something that you did or something that you said that caused a reaction from your spouse that was kind of negative, and then think back to whether or not that was kind of inculcated into your life as a result of past negative life experiences, and begin to talk about that together. And then question number 2, how has this teaching helped me better understand my wife? Now, guys, I pray God really blesses your discussion time together. And until next time, don't forget about it.